Hi, everybody. I'm going to get you to the episode in just a moment, but don't fast forward because we have an exciting opportunity from the Society for the Teaching of Psychology that we want you to hear about. STP has been a great supporter of psych sessions over the years, and now I'm going to throw it over to Danae Hudson, Vice President for Membership of the Society for the Teaching of Psychology.
Hi, this is Danae Hudson, and I'm the Vice President for Membership for the Society for the Teaching of Psychology. As a member, you have access to many benefits, including our mentoring program. The goal of the mentoring program is to provide mentees with career-related assistance to enhance their job performance and job satisfaction throughout their academic careers. No matter what stage of career you are in, a mentor can be a fulfilling and valuable relationship. Amy Hunter is the director of this program, and based on your answers to a few questions on the application, she will match you with a mentor who has significant experience with STP and the teaching of psychology. For more information or to complete an application, please visit our website at teachpsych.org. Once there, navigate to membership and then to mentoring services. Hurry because applications are due by September 16th. I'm so grateful for the various mentors I've had and still have in STP and would love for you to share in this experience.
Big hairy goal is I want to compete in the heptathlon. Next year I turn 60. That's like masters. And I just looked at the All-American standards and they're pretty weak. So I was not an All-American athlete in college, but I think I can do it.
You've just heard Ellen Carpenter from Virginia Commonwealth University. I had the opportunity to interview Ellen for the 207th episode of Psych Sessions, Conversations about Teaching and Stuff. We know you want to reach every student in your course, to help every student individually succeed. But how do you find out what each student wants and needs? Macmillan Learning's Achieve for Psychology offers a solution. Ask them. Achieve puts goal setting and reflection surveys in each course, where students share their aspirations, thoughts, and concerns about what they are trying to learn. Their responses help you tailor lessons and assignments and addresses both individual and class-wide needs. See for yourself. Go to macmillanlearning.com/psych sessions for an introductory tour today. Macmillan's Achieve for Psychology, engaging every student, supporting every instructor, setting the new standard for teaching and learning. Hi folks, this is Garth, and I want to tell you about an intro psych book from Sumo Learning. That's SOOMO. The book is called Psychology in the Real World by author Jennifer Harper. Sumo and Harper have taken seriously the APA-IPI recommendation that scientific inquiry and research methods should be the foundation for all content areas. So they built research spotlight activities into every chapter with focus on identifying and evaluating scientific claims, which is the applied stuff that we all want our students to be able to do coming out of this course. It's got LMS integration and auto-grading and supplements like slides and test questions and notes, and it's affordable at only $50. So check it out. Go to sumolearning.com, that's SOOMO learning.com, and get a preview of psychology in the real world. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. I am here today with Ellen Carpenter from Virginia Commonwealth University. And that is where is that? That's in Richmond?
That's in Richmond, Virginia.
Oh, my goodness. I think I was through there last summer or 2 summers ago? Last summer with Jane Hallinan. I don't think I realized that you were there.
I'm sad you didn't stop by.
Okay, so wait.
So there's also the University of Richmond.
Okay.
And Randolph-Macon College is up the road in Ashland.
Okay. Well, now I'm all messed up.
Maybe you were in Richmond, Kentucky.
No. I was definitely in Virginia. I really enjoyed Virginia, actually. It's a beautiful place.
That's very nice.
Yeah. So anyway, we did a bunch of interviews out there. We were at James Madison University.
Okay.
University of Virginia.
Sure.
Neither of those are your cities, though.
No, but my daughter's a double UVA grad, so.
Is that right? Okay,
Yeah.
great. Well, hey, Ellen, this is special because we get to talk to each other again. You have been on the Psych Sessions podcast 2 other times because, folks, if you go to our website, psychsessions.org, and then you go to the search bar and you put Ellen Carpenter in there, her episodes both come up. So anytime you're looking for somebody, you can just put them into the search bar. But you did an episode on spec grading with a panel with Marianne Lloyd.
Yep.
So we can
Kitty
talk
Ann
about that.
Skogsberg. Yep.
Yes. And then you and I touched base at ACT 2022.
Yes, I did not win a microphone that session. So I'm really hoping this year, are you raffling them off again?
Don't they have professional development money? They can just buy you $100 microphone.
No,
I don't know. We haven't
to go to teaching conferences.
Oh yeah, I forgot. So I don't know what we're going to give away this year, but man,
I'm sure it'll be awesome.
I hope so. If you have any thoughts, let me know. But I mean, this is actually going to come out, Ellen, right before ACT. So I'm guessing I'll see you I guess we're 6 weeks away or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're all in on STP. How long have you been part of the community for?
Probably about 2018.
2018.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. How did you find out? And I'm going down this trail because this is how I know you now, right?
Right.
So how did you find out about STP, and what was your home before that professionally?
Yeah, I don't think I had a home.
Okay.
So, no, that's not true. I have an IO background in human factors, so PSYOP and HFES.
Okay.
But so I guess maybe in 2017 in the fall, my chair, Wendy Cleaver, sent out an email really early in the morning and said, the first 2 people who respond to this, I've set aside funds so you can go to NITOP. And I had heard of NITOP, but I had never been. Do you know, I responded at 6:30 in the morning and I was the second person. And I was actually commuting that year to VCU from Norfolk. That's why I was up so early and checking my email. And the other person who beat me to it to get the first spot was also commuting that year. So I went to NITOP in 2018 and, I don't know, it was like those friendly people at the STP table probably roped me in.
Yeah. Well, there are people like you who, it's actually kind of crazy to me that people like you exist out there who just didn't know this existed. Like they didn't know that STP was a home. And then there is so much upside to someone like you coming in because you quickly get plugged in, make relationships, find your home, and now you like do some leadership things with STP. And
but I think it's a bigger upside what I get from learning it.
But isn't that the greatest thing?
Yeah.
But we do want reliable people, right? I don't know if you've ever, I'm sure you have, right? Where you've led something and then you get flakes or something like that. But, you are a passionate person. One of the things that sticks out to me, because you were in Top Inc. In 2022, I just, you're so passionate about the ideas that you're building, about what you do. You are like a catalyst. And so that is one of the things that sticks out to me, even about our brief recorded conversation. But during Top Inc., I remember just thinking like you were so serious about this and so passionate about getting this thing off the ground. So before we talk about that project and see if it still has legs, I'd be interested to hear. But what about, what do you think about all the folks maybe out there? Maybe we can promote STP for a moment. Like, what has STP done for you?
I think I found my tribe.
Yeah.
Maybe that's an overused phrase.
Yeah.
But I love hearing seeing people's questions and hearing the responses they get. And I think I'm finally in a space to offer resources and support to other people. So I try to jump in when I think I have something useful to share.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, even if I remember correctly, your project was a project that was going to help, hopefully, other people as well. So you weren't just doing something for yourself, but it was kind of to make life a little easier on folks. Now, I'm not going to embarrass you because projects sunset all the time where they just don't come to fruition. But can you give me an update after 2
luckily,
years?
the network's fired when you started talking about it.
Good.
And I can give out a short out to Jordan Waggy because it was based on the CREP. So I just became enamored of like, well, little backstory. For a couple of years, I was the coordinator of the honors in psych at VCU, and philosophically, it just didn't fit right because the model VCU uses is students already have to be in the honors college. So I felt like it was exclusive, not inclusive for students to do an honors research project.
Okay.
And so I thought, Jordan's thing, and John Grahey, I don't know if I'm saying his name right.
Yeah. Great.
Solar panel, Gray. Okay.
Yeah.
I learned about the CREP project and went all in. I don't teach research methods. I don't teach a capstone course. I teach an upper level at that point, learning and cognition course. And I was like, I want my students doing research. So it was a great experience, but I thought, how can I get other people at my university who might be teaching research methods or capstones to be interested in this? And now, at July 1st, I assumed the role of program director for undergraduate studies at VCU. We have like 1,800 psychology majors. And so maybe I am in a position to share the bounty of what CREP is. And it actually helps our QEP project for the next however many years is every Ram's a researcher and trying to get undergraduate research experiences in the classroom.
Awesome. Can you tell us just a little bit about CREP?
Yeah. So I've been calling it CREP, right?
Crepe. Is it crepe or crepe?
Jordan, it's crepe, but it looks like crepe.
I think you're right.
But it looks like Okay.
It's like John Gray's name looks like gras.
Yes.
So, yeah, we're all kinds of confused right now, and we might be wrong on all accounts. So that's fine. Why don't you tell us about this great thing that Jordan's doing?
Yeah. So it's collaborative replication education project. It introduces students to open science. They're going to be sharing their data. They replicate a study that's out there verbatim, but then they have the opportunity to add an extension hypothesis. And you really have to work with them to get these extension hypotheses theory driven, because they just want to say, I want to compare first years to fourth years. And so that's a good educational piece, and they can run with it. And they, if they want down the road, they could be helping with the manuscript. They can become a peer tutor through CREPE, and they learn how to make their survey on Qualtrics. My particular students felt empowered, I think, because the original study, given the date of when it was, for the demographic gender question, it was binary. And my students were like, no, this is wrong. This is wrong. I was like, I don't know. We're supposed to do the study exactly as it is for the replication. So I asked my students to craft the email with their argument, and we mailed it to the project coordinator, and they came back and said, yeah, bring it up to the 21st century and ask gender how you think it should be asked. So my students thought that was wonderful, that I listened to them and that their idea was valid.
Yeah. Students always get a kick out of when an author, a book author or a famous psychologist gets back to them.
Yeah.
They will. A lot of cases, they'll get back to you. Okay. So that's fun. So your project then, how did your project in 2022 kind of fit in with this?
It didn't go any further than the great ideas and community I got there, because then I was off to the next best piece of sliced bread.
Right. So you kind of realized that this was being done in some ways. What you were aspiring to do was being done, and you could get on board. And so you just put your weight behind what they were.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I didn't have to be the conductor.
Yeah, that's nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I also just like, do you remember how our conversation started at that ACT recording where
I
I
spun
said,
a wheel.
well, you did. No. But before that, I said something like, are you ready? And you said, hell yeah.
And then I was like, can I say that?
Yeah.
I guess I can because you
I don't
just
even
said
think
it.
it has to be marked explicit, but yeah, your enthusiasm, even, okay, so you come to Top Inc. as a pre-conference workshop. It doesn't turn into what you think, but it is important in, the development because because you were ready to take this idea and run with it. And then I just loved your enthusiasm moving forward.
And,
so anyway.
And, I had to change my flight to get there for the workshop. So I left really, really early to make it there. And it was totally worth it.
Well, for folks who are hearing this, we are going to do Top Inc. this year, but we're going to do it in 2 hours as a workshop. So it's going to be a little condensed this year. But here, let's talk about you for a moment, because you are the associate director of the SOTL workshop now. Is that right?
Yes.
What does that mean? Are you in charge of it?
You could say so, yes. Okay. I organize and retain the current wonderful mentors we have and recruit additional ones. And it's a little bit of a dance because you don't know for sure how many mentees there are going to be. And then you match them based on interest and or expertise. And since the 2020 version of CT, when we were online, and then it became an online, and then for a few years or 1 year, Georgina tried to do the high flex. Well, she didn't try, she was asked to do it, and she gave it a valiant effort. It was really challenging to do that. So last year we moved to in-person, and then in February there's a virtual option. But we still want to keep it as inclusive and accessible to as many people as possible. So we still work with people to make it happen. This year, one of our mentors is only virtual, but he plans to Zoom in so his mentees who is attending can meet with him that way. And then I work with Lindsay, and I guess it'll be you next year.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you do with Lindsay?
To request classroom or rooms.
Yes. Yep.
With mics and things.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yes. The SOTL workshop gets its own space for the duration of the conference, right? So, yeah, that's really interesting. Did you go through the SOTL workshop?
I did. I went in, I think it was 2018 or 2019. Christina Reagan will know. That's when I met her. Okay. And she remembers that's the year I won like the airplane throwing demo in one of her talks.
Yes. Okay, so because this is coming out before ACT, if people are interested in the SOTL workshop, is it too late, or do you need more mentors, mentees, anybody?
It's too late for this cycle, but after January 1st, the call for applications will be in the newsletter and such. And then the deadline is May 1st. And
can you just summarize what is the SOTL workshop for people who don't know what it is?
Sure. So SOTL Scholarship of Teaching and Learning. And it's been really interesting seeing the change in topics over years. It's an opportunity for the mentee, somebody who says, I have an idea, or I have 3 or 4 ideas. I want help narrowing it down. I'm not quite sure how to make this a research question, or I anticipate I have these barriers to collecting data. I need somebody to bounce ideas off of. And then we have our excellent mentors this year, Guy, Rob, and Jared. And so they provide excellent mentorship about the whole research process. The person I'm mentoring right now, I just ask them questions, and we're working on what her research question really is, and not jumping to operationalize before we know what the research question really is. And then there's, okay, now you've done the research, how are you going to disseminate it? Are you trying to publish? And so there's advertisement for or knowledge enhancement about the different outlets, and certainly STP's publications about going to conferences, podcasts, etc.
Right on. Yeah, I wonder if down the road there is any kind of any partnership between Psych Sessions and the SOTA workshop, and like how that could work. We could think about that. Well, that's so cool that you are so involved now, and it looks like your trajectory just continues to be more involved. You're not burning out, are you? With yeah,
Not at all.
Yeah, isn't that the beautiful thing about intrinsic motivation? It's like, so it's just the gift that keeps giving. So, well, very cool. Let's backtrack to figure out where you came from and how you got here to this point, because I did read over your bio, and I find
which one?
Well, just on the VCU page.
Oh dear,
but
that's probably outdated.
Well, I was looking through particularly your educational path, and I know we'll get there, but let's go back to where you grow up, and what kind of family did you come from an education perspective, and what was education like in your family?
Okay, so 2-parent household, one sister 2.5 years older than me. And so she went off to college, and I pretty much was like, okay, I'll make a decision to go off to a college also. I'll make sure it's not the same one. My dad earned a bachelor's in journalism. My parents met at Temple University, and my dad could barely afford to finish college. The story is he was walking glum on the street, and a friend came up and said, "Why are you so glum, Irv?" And he's like, "Well, I can't afford college next semester." And his friend said, "Well, come join my frat. You can live free in the room with me." And so my dad said, "Okay." And that's actually through a double date with this friend, Paul. That's how he met my mother. So my mother got her bachelor's history, French, or I guess just history in undergrad, I guess.
Yeah.
She went on to pursue her PhD in French history, collected data, went over to France for a while when I was about 10 years old. And of course, my dad wrote a New York Times article about his 10-year-old complaining that he bought the wrong flavor Pop-Tarts while mom was away. But
he wrote for the New York Times?
Yeah, he was an editor/reporter.
Wow. Okay.
And so my mother ended up ABD. She, the balancing family. And so I think in some ways my earning the PhD was for her and all the sacrifices she made.
Interesting. What did your sister go on and do?
My sister graduated from Cornell's labor relations. So she's a big, strong union person, and she's had various jobs here and there. Most recently, she just opened a crafting store in Washington, D.C. with 2 friends.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. So the education that is in your family, it seems like there is this mixture of like art and science. And so I just want to know, like, what were you all talking about growing up around the dinner table? What kinds of conversations were you having about the world? Yeah, I don't know if that makes
and there
sense.
was definitely a fair sprinkle of politics. My sister was scared of dogs, so my mom thought, okay, we need to get a puppy so my sister wouldn't be scared. And my dad didn't really want to get a dog, but he finally agreed with the condition. We named it Tricky Dick after Richard Nixon. So that was our family dog. I don't know, like the outings I remember we went on, I grew up on Long Island. My dad was like the Long Island bureau chief for a while. So I remember going to the fish hatchery, and when he was reporting, if he had stories like at the butterfly farm or at the apple orchard, we would go and do those things. To me, they just seemed like normal family dinner discussions, and they went on way too long, and I couldn't leave the table until everybody was finished eating. But my best childhood friend, who's still my best friend. She has very fond memories of when she would come and eat at our house and the conversations that we had that I obviously took for granted.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah. For some reason, I imagine when you were sharing about your family that you all sat around and had discourse about things. And so that was correct.
Yes.
Yeah. And so your family valued ideas and they valued discourse. How do you think you've taken that forward with you over your education and career and even now into your teaching?
It's definitely part of who I am. One of the biggest lessons my dad taught me was about being truthful. And so I try very hard to stay true to that. I think I try hard to remember that students come to us from all different backgrounds and to appreciate what they are bringing that's different than what I experienced.
Yeah. Well, very cool. So you knew you were going to go to college probably from a pretty young age. That was just part of the education pathway.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how did you decide what college to go to? How was that process for you?
So I ran track in high school and ran cross country. That's still a big part of my identity. I'm actually getting ready to start competing in masters track and field. And when I was a sophomore in high school, there was a senior on the track, Brigitte Dupree, who was also a hurdler, and she went to Oberlin College. So I was like, oh, Oberlin College. Okay. And they have good music there. I'm also really into music. So I applied early decision and I got in. And now I look at the incoming class there and other places, and I think there's no way they would admit me now. But I didn't start a nonprofit when I was 9 and everything. So I decided, I applied early decision. I got in. That's where I went. But my path is very circuitous as far as majors, and I share this with students all the time. I thought, oh, maybe biology or English, or maybe I want to conduct choir. And in order to take a music ed course, I had to take intro psych. I took that. I was like, whoa. Like, this is so fascinating. I want to take more psych classes. So I double majored in psych, and it was called PE back then. Now it'd be health kinesiology, exercise sciences. And then in my master's, I went in thinking exercise physiology. I took a sports psychology course. I was like, wow, you can major in this?
Wild.
That's what I did.
So you're just stumbling into these courses.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're opening up your world and possibilities. Interesting. When you were when you were admitted to this college, you said that you are shocked at that. I think you were saying you were shocked that you got into it, because it's very competitive and they're looking for a particular kind of student. Is that correct?
I was saying, I think when I applied, I was confident and happy I got in, but I look at the profile of students that get in now, and I said, there's no way. Like, I wouldn't have even gotten into the maybe pile.
Yeah. What was it that got you accepted into that college? Do you think that the standard was just that much lower? I don't know if I agree with what you're saying.
I think it's possible.
Was it your grades? Like, what was the admittance process for you?
I mean, I had solid grades and solid standardized tests. I wasn't a merit scholar or anything like that. I had extracurricular activities. I'm sure it was a group decision. Who got in.
Yeah, I sometimes I think back on, how we tell these stories, and when you could see now what a student would need to do, the kind of the type of student that would get admitted, did you have some things that you're downplaying now, or is it a bit of a mystery to you, or maybe it wasn't as competitive then?
I just think it wasn't as competitive.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah. Okay. So you did this double major, but how did you decide on grad school? then?
So I did not have any research experience during my undergrad experience. I was busy doing well in my classes, and we had fun things called EXCO, Experiential College. So I got to learn different things. But I was busy being an athlete, so I didn't do any research in anyone's undergrad research lab.
And nobody was telling you that you should be doing that? Mm-hmm.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, I was just getting good grades, so I thought that was enough. So I went out to California for 1 year after I graduated. I applied for PhD programs in psychology. Surprise, surprise, I didn't get accepted into any of them. I didn't have any research experience. So that was a little bit of a blow to my ego, because up until then, everything I had applied for that I'd wanted, I'd gotten in. And I had applied for some master's programs in exercise physiology. I got into a couple of them, and University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill wasn't too far. My parents were in DC by then. So I thought, Tar Heels, sure. Okay. So drove across the country in my little Honda and started at Chapel Hill.
So that's interesting. You come from a family that had been in higher education and beyond just undergraduate experience. And yet there was an advising sort of failure in like what you wanted to do or to open the doors for your future. They kind of just missed you. How did that happen? And, I guess it's how do you think about that? And then how has that impacted the way you talk to students? I imagine it has.
It's very much impacted the way I've talked to students. And if they are thinking about grad school in psychology, they've got to get undergrad research experience. And so that was part of the reason I was doing the CRAPE. I wanted to embed that in the classroom for the student who has a profile that they can't spend the extra credits to be in somebody's lab, or the time constraints conflict with other responsibilities or employment that they have. So I am always trying to provide opportunities for my students. And one of my other roles, I'm a faculty fellow for the First Gen Student Success Center. So I recruit students as panelists for some of our events, and I try to guide them and afterward share in an email, this is how you put your event in your CV, because they might not know even to include it or how to include it.
It makes me wonder how many of our students are getting the advising that they need to be getting. I've told this story before, but I was from a first gen family, so I didn't have any family help with it. But then also, I just attended classes. I'm like you. I thought if you do well in your classes, which I didn't even do that well, but if you not at the beginning, if you do well in your classes, that everything will just work out. Well, it's not really the case. You have to be strategic, and you have to have people telling you what to do, even outside of those classes, and ask you questions like, what are your next steps? And so many students probably going through really great programs or to really good institutions are not getting that. And that's kind of sad.
Yeah, but on the other side, flip side, I wandered. Yeah. And I ended up somewhere where I'm really happy, professionally. And I took a circuitous path. So I don't know, the pressure of always knowing what the next step is and doing what you need to do to get there. That seems very oppressive to me.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. So you're okay with wandering. You don't have a whole lot of anxiety about it.
Right. No.
Yeah. Yeah. Fascinating. All right. So you moved to North Carolina. Yep. And what was that program like? For a sports psych master's?
Well, I started ex-phys, and then I took a sport psych class.
Okay.
I'm very interested in that. I was also a graduate assistant coach for UNC's track and field team, which at the time was still really, really good. When my husband and I got married, we went to the 92 U.S. track and field trials down in New Orleans as our honeymoon. And there were 17 current or former UNC athletes there. So I got coaching experience there. So my first career was in coaching. My master's thesis was about motivation for exercising. I was wondering if youngsters had a different reason for exercising than older persons. And now that I'm an older person, I can say, yes, my hypothesis was correct.
So, what kinds of things do you do? Let's just take a quick dive into. Obviously, this is pretty important for you. I read something about cross country. How do you keep yourself fit these days?
So the big hairy goal is I want to compete in the heptathlon. Next year I turn 60. That's like masters. And I just looked at the All-American standards and they're pretty weak. So I was not an All-American athlete in college, but I think I can do it in this age group. And there's new events like the triple jump.
Yeah.
I haven't tried before. I blame it all on this 90-year-old woman named Flo Myler who started the sport when she was in her 70s. And now she pole vaults and does it all. But so I run some, but I take, 4 or 5 classes a week at the Y, and I swim, and I play pickleball, and I Tai Chi, and I want to do everything. I garden. It wasn't like this work to get in the way.
Right. Yeah. Well, sorry about that.
Good thing I like it.
What are the events for the heptathlon?
100-meter hurdles, 200 meters, 800 meters, high jump, long jump, shot put, javelin. But the implements get lighter as you get older.
Okay.
And the hurdles get lower and spaced closer together. It's a handicap.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
They even have age-graded performances. So like you can plug in your performance and your age, and they're like, you're 89% of what a 25-year-old would do in this.
Fascinating. So where will that take place?
That's a little bit tricky. It's hard to find me. It's like, the national championships is in California and the international championships are in Sweden. And then between that, find your local college and see if they'll let you run unattached. So I'm still in the research phase of finding competitions, but there's so much competition within, so that's okay.
So you are, your first career is in coaching, and then at some point you decide to go back and get a PhD, because this was a master's degree in sports psych, right?
Right. So I started coaching at Old Dominion University in Norfolk, Virginia. And then a couple of years, so I was taking classes part-time, and this was in the 90s. Along the way, had 3 kids. The other day or week, I was invited to a 90s karaoke party. So I had to reach out to my lifeline, which is Beth Ann Rice, Katie Ann Skogsberg, and Christina Reagan, and group texted them and said, okay, what do I wear for a 90s karaoke? What songs do I do? I don't recognize any of the songs from the top 100. And then I realized, that's because in the 90s, you had 3 kids and were coaching and going to grad school part-time. So you didn't have time to be hip and cool. So I don't have those same excuses now, but my students help me a little bit right now to be hip and cool. So I was coaching and then had part-time meaning 2 or 3 classes a semester. But I wasn't under somebody. So that's kind of important. I didn't come in under somebody and get that kind of mentoring. They're like, sure, you want to pay tuition? Okay, take some classes. And then ODU decided, we're not going to keep offering cross-country, track, and field. So I was at a crossroads. I'd taken my comprehensive exams. Do I try to get a coaching job somewhere else? Or do I just focus on the PhD? So that was a little bit heart-wrenching. I went to a couple of coaching interviews and just long talks with my husband, realized no, I want to get the PhD. I was teaching in the classroom anyway. I had come in with a master's degree, so they let me loose and I taught IO and research methods and enjoyed it. So finished the PhD, which was about exercise and cognitive aging. And
hold on for a second. I have a question for you, because I actually teach an introductory IO. I call it psychology of the workplace. Now, at a community college, we have to be generalists. So we teach a lot of things that are not necessarily in our wheelhouse, like that course. I've really enjoyed teaching it. But tell me, were you like me? Like when you were teaching that IO course, were you learning it as you went, or did you already have an interest in it? This is before you started the IO program, right?
No, I was in the IO program.
You were in the IO program.
So that was another one of little twists. I was like, okay, I'm coaching here. They'll pay for one class a semester. What psych degrees does ODU offer? I'm not really interested. I don't think I'm cut out for clinical counseling. I don't know what human factors is. There's IO psychology. Oh, okay. Well, this actually makes sense because I recruit, train, motivate, evaluate athletes. So this is kind of my jam. This actually works. So that was a good fit. And then I took a perception class. I was like, whoa, this is really interesting. All of these people sitting on both sides of me, they're not in my IO classes. What are you studying? Oh, we're human factors. Oh, what's human factor? So I switched to human factors.
Wow. And you saw a pretty natural overlap between what you had been doing and this field.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. So then you finish your PhD.
Mm-hmm.
And what did you think you'd be doing? Did you want to teach?
I definitely want to teach. I love the academic calendar. I think between 1987 and 1988, I had a non-academic job. I was like, oh, get me on that academic calendar again.
Yeah, just like you like the summers,
I like
time to do all the things.
I like knowing this madness of a particular semester or element of madness, like is going to be done on this date, and I can push and push and push and get there, and I get a little breather, and like I can work out with my fitness goals right now. As long as I get everything done and keep up on my emails, I can do my Tuesday morning body pump class. Like, I don't know if I could do that if I had another type of job.
Oh, you are just like anybody who's listening right now is like wishing that they had the kind of work-life balance that you have managed to carve out for yourself. But
if you look on my calendar, my Tuesday mornings are blocked out.
Yeah. I also hear that potentially you are highly conscientious. Would that be fair? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. High conscientiousness, open to experience.
Yeah.
New experiences.
Fun. What was your first job then out of grad school?
So I was
like academic job.
Yeah. I was a visiting professor at ODU for a couple of years, and then that line dried up because it was really somebody else had retired, and then the department lost that line. So then I went to the dark side, and I taught at a for-profit and did admin for about 7 years at South University, which I have to say, yes, some questionable predatory recruitment strategies from the admissions office, but that was the first floor. Second floor, where academics was, totally above the bar and very much like any other academic setting that I've been at, faculty who really care about their students and good pedagogy. And then I saw the position at VCU and applied for that.
Was that, let me rephrase. Were you pretty confident that you were competitive for that job at that point in time?
Oh, I think when I interviewed, the people that interviewed were very nervous with me coming from a for-profit.
Oh, really?
But
got ideas.
Then I was like, so I ascended very quickly at South University. I went from an adjunct to full-time to program director to chair for gen ed to an assistant dean for arts and sciences, all within 2 or 3 years maybe. So at my VCU interview, I was able to say, well, I've brought our institution through KCREP and ABA for our paralegal studies program. So I know how accreditation visits go and how you have to get everything ready. So maybe they're like, oh, maybe we can take a chance on her.
Have you always had an interest in admin? because now you're doing something like you're out of the classroom a little more, right? Because
Yes,
you are the
yes.
director of undergraduate programs.
Right. I see it as a vehicle to further what I am passionate about and maybe get other people on board with what I'm passionate about.
Yeah, I've interviewed a handful of people like you where the reason they want to be in those positions is to have the most impact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good way to phrase it.
Yeah. Yeah. So you get to have more say as you do these administrative positions. How has this cut into your teaching load?
So I'm term faculty at VCU, which means teaching focused. I guess before I was at VCU, it was called collateral teaching, which sounds just horrible.
That's
so
bizarre.
I'm term faculty, which means I'm teaching focused. And when I was first hired, it was like 80% teaching, 20% service. Now I'm shifting more to 60-40, maybe 50-50. So term faculty is 3-3 load. Mm-hmm. Many of our undergraduate classes are large. That's why it's 3 and not 4. And I have a course release each semester for serving this administrative role. And then I find faculty fellows outside of the department. So I get course releases that way. I was faculty fellow for mentoring in our dean's office for a couple semesters. And I'm currently serving as a faculty fellow in our first gen student success center.
Okay. So are you teaching a class then right now? Is that
I'm
right?
teaching a class. I'm teaching a grad seminar in cognitive development right now.
You know, it is nice. The academic life is an interesting one because year by year, things do change. Like, for example, mm-hmm. I am now a division chair, which decreases my teaching load. I like the ebbs and flows. And mm-hmm. when you have less teaching, like a smaller teaching load, I find that I get really excited about that one class. Like when I am doing 3 simultaneously, or, you know, some of our colleagues are doing 4 or whatever, and especially if they're different preps, it's draining. It's hard to keep it all straight. Mm-hmm. It's, it's a lot. But if I can give all of myself to a class, that is pretty special.
I think I agree with you. I think it's also this situation. I teach the grad seminar Wednesday afternoons. It only meets once a week. So I love teaching the big classes, but it's exhausting and getting up. And, you know, my classes have a lot of moving parts. And so getting everything organized and prepped for them my undergrad classes is a lot of work. So that's tiring. And you teach multiple times a day. So you're up, energy-wise all the time for that. And with this one seminar on Wednesdays, my Wednesdays are long, but Thursday comes around and I have to even think about what day of the week it is, because it's not that automatic, finish the grad seminar. Now I have to see if I have the scratch cards and the lemonade mix for my 9:30 Thursday morning class.
Okay, so that's some of the moving pieces that you're talking about. What is the class experience you like to create for your students?
So I finally figured out to step out of the way and let them learn. So they're doing more of it and I'm doing less of it. And that was a gradual process of letting go. And it's just been magical. And
can you give an example of that? I don't want to put you on the spot, but yeah, go ahead.
That's fine. Last spring, I taught a learning and cog class, and I've taught this class ever since I started at VCU. It's one class, not learning, not cognition. It's learning and cog. And about 2/3 of the class meetings, meets twice a week, 75 minutes. 2/3 of those meetings, I have interactive lecture for only about 30 minutes. And the next 45 minutes, they're working in their permanent small groups. And they're either doing inner teaching through class preparation assignments that Sue France, or Kim Case, who's at VCU, is like, Ellen, I got this idea about scratch off cards. And so the students interteach, and then they get in their little groups and they do quizzes and scratch off cards looking for the correct answer. I do have a little project related to both of those. So lots of hands-on that I'm trusting them that they will stay on task and learn from each other. And it's so energizing, the environment. And I've learned so much about my students, how cool and amazing individuals they are. And I think to myself, yes, this group is special, but the other ones probably have been special too. And I just didn't know it because I didn't know how to tap into it and release it. And now it's all out there.
So has this new approach to teaching changed as you've gotten into the STP community? Is that what opened it up for you? And
absolutely.
What were you doing before? Traditional lecture?
Pretty traditional. I mean, I think I knew enough about think, pair, share.
Yeah.
And that, but I felt this burden of I need to cover and teach everything. And if they don't get it right on the exam, I have failed. And now I assess completely differently. I've whittled down what we explore together. I don't use that word cover anymore. I give students some choice about what we explore. There's a lot of choice in my assignments that they can pick and choose from, give them that autonomy.
Yeah.
So all great ideas from STPers, and then I noodle on them. Dog walks, bikes, runs. It's all swirling in my head. I still have a piece of paper I shared with the Facebook group at my university during COVID. I came back from a long bike ride and I just had to dump all these ideas. And it was just scribble, scribble, scribble of how I was going to redesign my course. And so that whole idea of repetitive, rhythmic, large muscle movement to let the ideas flow, that is so truthful
it's
for me.
So good. Yes.
Yeah.
I have my best ideas when I'm out and about like that.
Absolutely. I know some people listen to podcasts and such, when they walk or exercise. And for me, that's my creativity zone.
Yeah. Walking's fine for me to not be listening to something, but any kind of exercise, usually that's like suffering for me. So I need to be distracted through it.
So swimming, I'm not quite at the point I can think about other things in swimming besides my form.
Right. Yeah. I tried swimming last year. I couldn't not drown. So, so I was like, okay, back to the old.
So running. I got a coach. I just asked somebody to teach me how to swim. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And he said, so swim a lane so I can see what you do to fix. And I was like, no, I can't swim a lane. That's why we're together. Like, take me from the first step.
So as I hear you talk about teaching, I'm having my own sort of reflections. I'm about to start the term and I have redone. I feel, isn't it great that we're still developing even after all this time in higher education?
My sister once said to me, Ellen, not everybody loves their job as much as you do.
I love it.
Because we are always learning and always growing. Like, we're not stagnating at all. Yeah, teaching would not be enjoyable if we stagnated and did the same thing every semester.
I have been, like, last year, I was on a sabbatical 2 years ago. Last year, AI was it was my first real interaction with AI, like from my students using it. And I wasn't going to freak out about it, but I was just going to try to like mitigate the problems by making some different choices. But this summer I had the chance to just really think through my courses and ended up overhauling the two courses that I'm going to be teaching this fall. I ended up overhauling them, but they're so good now. And I've kind of decreased the amount of kind of, the chance of AI impacting learning in a bad way. I've decreased that. but I also learned how to use it as an educator and use
That's awesome.
it to write things or to develop things. I'll give you an example. One of the things I struggle with is that creative piece, which I'm pretty creative, but I struggle with the creative piece of I want my students to learn about such and such, but I want them to have some choice creatively in how they let me know that they have learned that. That's a perfect question for ChatGPT. You can just put it in there. Like, give me 10 ways, creative ways that a student could show me, their instructor, that they have learned about this thing. And they're not all great, but it will spit out 10 things that I couldn't think of.
That you can play with.
That you can play with. Right.
Right.
It is really special. And so I'm using it more and more and realizing that it not only should be embraced, but it is a great help to those of us who are trying to continue to develop and progress and do better. Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are you using it at all? Yeah.
I'm exploring with it mostly for my grad class. I started the first day of class an open, honest discussion, asking them how they're using it, because something I had heard, maybe it was the SDP page or one of my other groups, that students are really nervous about AI and getting in trouble, and we might not understand how they're thinking about it. So I had this conversation with my grad students, and at first they were like, yeah, when I want to make a recipe, I put in what's in my cupboard. And then it finally trickled down to, oh, you can put in a PDF of an article you need to read and it'll highlight its main points. I said, isn't that what the abstract is?
Yeah, they're like, we stumbled upon this great hack.
Yeah. So I played around with it a little. Cog development is a bit of a stretch for me. I consider myself loosely a cognitive psychologist, not necessarily a development, although I'm affiliated with a development program at VCU because it's the people that asked me to join, sponsored me. I liked and appreciated. But so I've used, when I was trying to figure out how to structure my class, I used it a bit to kind of summarize some of the main theories, making sure that my understanding of, like, say, Piaget or Vygotsky was on target. And that gave me a nice little quick primer.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know that we are sort of running out of time here, but I did want to ask you about one thing, and we can cut this if you don't want to talk about it, but you have no idea what I'm about to say. Okay. Yeah. All right. So our mutual friend, Allison Melly.
Allison, she's my roomie for conferences.
So she and I were chatting offline about something else, and maybe she heard a conversation that I had with somebody where, oh my goodness, I can't remember. I'm going to jump to the point. The point was, there's this story that she told me that maybe it was you, where at Psych
Guilty.
1 this year. No. Okay, at Psych 1 this year. That
last year.
Was it last year that Sue Franz had?
Oh no, the different Psych 1 story, different Allison Melly Psych 1 story.
Well, okay, so I'm doing a terrible job at this, but the story that I heard was that Sue Franz was giving her talk, expressing
your neighbor, the neighbor talk.
Yeah. Yes, her neighbor talk, which is essentially, when you're thinking about intro psych, think about, what does your neighbor really need to know? They do not need to know about the action potential. That's one of her favorite examples. And then I heard this lore about somebody saying, I disagree with you, Sue Franz. I didn't know who that was. And then Allison Melly said, I think that was Ellen Carpenter.
So I think that actually goes back to like 2021. And then she would call me out at NITOP during the talk. And at Psych 1, she just like laser eyes at me about it.
She went after you.
Yeah, it's her fun little shtick.
Well, tell me,
but
though.
Sue is coming to VCU to give that talk.
Oh, that's great.
Short weeks. Yeah, I'm very excited.
Perfect. So what was your position on that talk? Because her position was, hey, let's cut a bunch of stuff that is unnecessary for your neighbor to know about psychology. So,
right. So do I think students need to memorize -40 plus 70? No, but to be in awe of our amazing body, to appreciate that our listeners understand. I'm pushing sound pressure out of my mouth. Of course, you're hearing it over the airwaves, but the cilia in their ear are bending and converting that into an electrical signal that is making connections with other parts of their brain that can process language. And their memory of what I said at the beginning of the sentence to the end of the sentence, all of that happens because sodium and potassium are crossing a membrane. Like, if you don't have goosebumps from that, you need to come to my perception class.
Okay, and so when you shared that the first time, what did Sue say?
I remember.
Okay, she was like, probably supportive of it.
Yeah.
Well, she's probably saying, if you can tell that story to your neighbor, then tell that story to your neighbor.
Right.
That's gonna get them interested in psychology, right?
Exactly. It makes it relevant. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for allowing me to put you on the spot and walk you through that story.
Okay. Well, the next time you see Allison Melly, you have to ask her about our other Psych 1 story.
No, you got to tell the Psych 1 story. This will be a nice way to.
It was a wardrobe malfunction.
Do you want that publicly on Psych Sessions, or are you?
You'd have to ask Allison.
Okay. Great. Well, Allison, we know you're out there listening because you are a great supporter of Psych Sessions. And if you don't want to tell this story on a recording, then you'll just tell it to some of us at ACT in
Absolutely.
a few weeks. Ellen, it has been so good to chat with you. I love your passion for teaching. You are the kind of person that it seems to me, that could just talk teaching forever, and it would be fascinating, and the exchanges would be energizing. And so I'm glad you are in this teaching community, and that you are now kind of in leadership at STP, and I can see that future continuing to be productive for both you and for the society. So that's really cool.
Well, you're very kind, and so appreciate Psych Sessions and listening to all of those sessions and all the great guests you bring on. So it's a privilege.
Well, thank you. And I'll see you in person in just a little while.
Hell yes.
Psych Sessions can do what it does because of listeners like you. We want to thank you for your support over the years in our mission to get more free professional development to all teachers of psychology around the world. If you want to support us further by making a tax-deductible donation, please head to psychsessions.org/donations. Thanks for listening.